Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Worn and Wound podcast. My name is Zach Kazan. I'm the managing editor at Worn and Wound. We have a fun show for you today, as always. I'm joined by Kat Shoulders, head of content at Worn and Wound. Kat, how's it going?
It's going great. Glad to be here.
I feel like we just did this, Kat. We were having it's a two podcast recording.
This is my third podcast this week.
Third for you, yeah. Second for me, which is twice as many as I normally record in a week. Usually it's one, but hey, that's good. Maybe I'll get good at it eventually if we record more podcasts.
We'll keep trying.
We're joined today by a guest. We're really happy to be joined by Worn and Wound contributor, watch enthusiast, car enthusiast, keyboard enthusiast, just a general enthusiast, Elodie Townsend. Elodie, welcome to the Worn and Wound podcast.
Well, thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, it's great to have you. We've been waiting for the right opportunity to get you on the podcast. You wrote a feature article recently that we'll link to on the website that kind of like is really just a profile of a friend of yours who, and there's kind of exploring the crossover between watch and car culture. And I think it's just a really, really nice piece of writing. And I wanted to talk to you about, like cars and watches and your interests, and also just kind of introduce you to the Worn and Wound audience because you're a relatively new contributor here, and that's what we like to do, is to break them in on the podcast. So it's great to finally have you here.
All right. Well, thank you very much, Zach. I'm excited to hopefully not talk too much because I tend to do that, especially when it involves cars and watches.
It's okay. It's a great place to do that.
Yeah, it's a podcast. People are listening to hear us talk. So good thing to keep in mind. Before we get into Elodie, your background and kind of general interest in watches, cars, and other things, we'll do a wrist check. Why don't you tell us what you're wearing on the wrist today, Elodie?
Well, I have my Oris Big Crown Pointer date.
Excellent.
I'm not sure the focus on my camera will ever get it right. But this is the yellow edition that they released. I think it was in late March of this year. And it's kind of my one dressy watch. It's definitely more blingy than the other watches I tend to wear. And it's the perfect summer watch because it's got its yellow dial and it's got kind of a metallic finish to it, which is very nice.
Yeah, that's a cool piece. That was the Watches and Wonders novelty this year, and that was you were an early adopter on that watch. I think you might have been one of the very first people in the country to pick up that watch with the bright yellow dial. It's very very cool piece.
Yeah, it was one of the first ones I did see on Instagram.
Yeah,
it photographs very well. It's one of those watches
for sure.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
Kat, what about you? What are you wearing?
So in the same flavor as Elodie, I am wearing my Nomos Club Neomatic World Timer, which has the Dune colorway. So a little bit of a different yellow than the Oris, but I feel like this is like the yellow if it just like sat out in the sun for a little bit. It got a little burnt. So no, this is really cool. I kind of semi lost it. Didn't really lose it though. I just didn't know where it was in the house, and I found it today. My backpack from my last trip, and I just forgot it was in there. So
yeah, you brought that watch to New York because it participated in a Thunderdome, which will be on our YouTube channel sometime in the near future. But no spoilers on how it fared in the Thunderdome. Yeah, that's a cool watch. I like it has a very fun button to press. It's very clicky. Yeah.
Very good tactile action.
Yeah, for sure. Your dad has one, Elodie, right?
He does. His is in, it's not the Dune colorway. It's one of the other limited edition colorways. The sort of brown.
Like a brown, like a brown colorway. I don't know what all their names are, but it's really cool. Yeah. Kazan, what are you wearing?
I'm wearing my Fears Brunswick Aurora today. I've been wearing for the last 2 or 3 days. I decided to put it on a strap. I usually wear it on the bracelet, but I put it on an old wind-up watch shop strap that I've had literally for years. It's this like a gray, leather strap. It just works on everything. I don't know why I didn't think to try it on this watch before, but it's a great watch. I love it.
Cool.
Yeah. All right. So Elodie, again, welcome to the podcast. I think we should probably start by just kind of like introducing you to our listening audience. Maybe you could tell us a little bit about how you got into watches in the first place, and sort of like what interests you about the hobby.
Absolutely. So I was one of those kids who was always wearing a Casio, when I was 7, or, when you're 7, you're not really timing anything important, but it's always fun to be the kid that all the other kids in the classroom ask what time it is because they know you have a watch. And kind of through my whole childhood, I was wearing Casios. And then, after I got to college and finished college, my dad started really getting into watches. He'd always been into watches, but he never really had the bandwidth or the money to fully explore the hobby. But after all of his kids were sort of out of the nest, he was able to fully jump into it. So I blame my dad, that's an easy place to put blame. He's a watch fanatic, and he dragged me down with him. So for my 21st birthday, he got me a Seiko Flightmaster. And that watch was kind of the catalyst for my descent into watch fandom. So a very tactile tool watch, which I think describes my personality pretty well. So really it's my dad's fault.
I feel like the first time I met you, you might have been wearing that watch, Elodie.
Oh, I guarantee. I wore it every day for the first 3 years of owning it, I think.
Yeah. Oh, man. That's a good wearing experience. I'm kind of jealous. I feel like I, like your father, have way too many watches and go through many watches and don't really get to connect in the same way. So like I have a lot of admiration for people that like will just wear one watch for a long period of time and just, wear it in and have history and memories with it.
It's like normal people is what you're describing, just like a regular person.
Maybe one day. Yes.
It was an easy watch to wear every day too, because it's wearable in its size, but it's also, has all these functions that I never knew how to use, but they're always fun icebreakers. And I was in my last year or two of college, and it made me feel more like a professional adult.
Yeah, totally. Sure. A nice
when
watch
you're that age. Yeah, and when you're that age, you really want to feel like an adult. Yeah, because you never really do, even though people tell you are. So I think it also helped boost my confidence going into the professional world too after college.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I'm curious, like that watch to me is kind of almost intimidating. Like there's a lot of functionality in it. What was it that, like, I mean, obviously you sort of gravitated towards tool watches in general, but what was it about that watch specifically for you that you kind of were like, oh yeah, that's the one?
Again, I'm going to blame my dad here. He picked it out for me. I think because I've always liked things that are overly complicated.
Yeah.
Whether it's down to,
well, you liked Casios, so you liked all the functions. Yeah.
And actually the Casio that I always wore was the world timer one with the map of the US with the, time zones that you could highlight. And it was less for functionality and more for, I thought it was cool to have a watch that could do all of these things. Obviously the flight, I'm not a pilot, you would not want me flying a plane. Nor would you want me doing calculus because algebra is about as good as I get when it comes to math. But the idea of having a watch that can do all those things was like the epitome of cool to me.
Yeah.
And I used to coach high school softball, and I would always have a joke where I would say, okay, whoever can read my watch, the flight master, you can leave practice 5 minutes early if you can tell me what time it is. Because it's visually
no
very
one left
confusing.
Early, I'm guessing.
And it has great bezel action. It has a smooth sliding bezel, so it doesn't have any clicks or anything. So it was a total fidget toy for me, too, which probably enabled more fidgeting than is probably acceptable. But just a great gateway watch in general.
Have you, Elodie, you talk about how your dad kind of like sent you down the path of watch enthusiasm. Do you get your taste from your dad too? Has that been passed down, or do you kind of like have your own sort of like, like taste that's like distinct, that you've sort of carved out?
It's interesting because my dad's kind of a jack of all trades. He likes a lot of different styles of watches, a lot of different styles of everything. So I'm definitely I'm more narrow minded in my focus, or in my aesthetics. But certainly tool watches were always where we shared enthusiasm. We both have a Zinn EZM7, which he actually got for me when I graduated, or when I received my master's degree, because in the Townsend family, a watch is what you get when you make when you have a big achievement.
Yeah, as it should be.
So I think tool watches are where we coincide. He definitely likes a lot of dress watches that I think I wouldn't wear personally. But I have to give him credit where credit's due, that he has a very good taste in watches, a very tasteful collection. So I think I've learned a lot from him, but I wouldn't say we're necessarily aligned in what we like the best.
For sure. Yeah. I met your dad in San Francisco earlier this year, and learned a little bit about his collection. I agree. He has excellent taste.
Shout out Blaine.
Yeah, shout out Blaine.
Yeah.
Talk a little bit about that EZM7 and because you wrote a nice review of that a while back that we'll link to. When you told me you own that, I was kind of like, EZM7, like that's such a niche watch. It's like a very like specialized, like specialized like Zinn tool watch, which are like the coolest watches they make. But why is that watch? What's the appeal of that watch to you, and what's it like wearing it like day in and day out?
Yeah, and it has become my daily driver watch. It kind of took over from the Flightmaster in that regard. It being a mechanical watch helped a lot for me, because I was kind of in the transition from owning mostly quartz watches to now owning a lot of mechanical watches. I'm a very clumsy person, so having a watch that's scratch resistant, which it has that Zinn sort of scratch resistant stainless steel that matte texture, and it's so nice because I drop it all the time when I'm working on my car. It's dragging against the intake manifold. It's getting scratched up, and it does not show any of it.
So the car is getting scratched, not the watch.
Oh yeah, and we all know, the car.
Yeah, I've been there.
Yeah, exactly. So I think the durability of the watch is the biggest draw for me. I get scared wearing fragile, even if they're not actually fragile, watches that I perceive to be fragile. So the Oris was actually a big step out of my comfort zone, because I'm used to wearing sort of tough watches. It has a really colorful dial, and bezel. So it has all the markings on the dial and bezel that indicate different firefighting equipment and their longevity in a dangerous environment. So I obviously don't use it for its intended purpose, or at least I hope I don't have to use it for its intended purpose.
Yeah, you haven't yet, but that doesn't mean you won't at some point.
But the colorful dial and bezel really are a big draw for me too, because it's a pretty. I think without the color coding, it would be a pretty utilitarian sort of watch. But with the little added pops of color, it has a lot of personality.
No, Zinn does that like really well. I feel like they're maybe underrated. I think they are underrated when people talk about tool watches. I still don't meet a lot of people that own Zinns. I've had one or two in my collection. Zach, I don't know if have you ever owned it?
I have. Yeah, I've had a few Zinns. I think that at least when I was like coming into the hobby, it was one of those brands that like is one of the first kind of like enthusiast brands that you would discover on the forums. Like they're like it's a big forum brand, or at least it was. When I was sort of like learning about like sort of like the enthusiast watch world. But yeah, I love Zinn, and I'm not really like as big a tool watch person. Certainly not as much as I once was. Of kind of my interests have sort of like diverged a little bit from there. But like I often think about like maybe adding a Zinn back into the collection. They're just like so incredibly well made. Like every Zinn is sort of like an heirloom watch that'll last like forever.
I feel like we have our appointment with them every Watches and Wonders at Time to Watches, and I'm always like so surprised when they bring them all out, and then you pick them up and they're like, oh my god, this is like a tank. This watch, it could last forever. It's very appealing. And then I think they also do some just really beautiful dials and things like that. Again, they just sort of like don't get talked about often enough. But
they made that dress watch this year with that faceted bezel, which I think was like honestly like the most impressive watch they showed us.
Cool. It was really cool. Yeah,
and they actually have they have a great Instagram account. I know that's a weird thing to shout out, but I think their social media does a good job. They have great photography of the watches.
Yeah.
Especially those sort of, they've had the submarine watches they came out with this year.
Yeah, that's great.
They've taken some really good photos that I think elevate the designs a lot, because there's only so much you can see from a regular product photo.
Yeah. Well, that's a pretty cool watch to own. Kind of, I like these watches that you feel like you can just drag around and they're gonna like make it through.
Yeah,
I'm not very careful with mine either.
I am a clumsy person despite liking sports and athletics. I am not what I would say careful with my belongings.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, the Zins are like one of those watches where you literally can like abuse them, quite a bit. They're built to take it. What are some other, watches that are like meaningful to you, that either like, watches in your collection or watches you aspire to own, or just like appreciate, like what else kind of like defines your taste and interest in watches?
Absolutely. Well, the first, what I would call a quote real watch, which is an obnoxious phrase, but more meaning like an analog watch I had, was a Timex Weekender, which was given to me by my step grandpa. And even though that's a $35, $40 watch, it still means a lot to me because it was, it's got a white dial. It's very basic, but it's a watch that signifies that you care a little bit about watches. So that's kind of one of the watches I own that means a lot to me. I also have a Seiko, the Ripley watch from Aliens.
Yes.
I'm forgetting the reference number for it.
Yeah.
But that's also a really fun watch, and the design is so crazy and out there, and it's a Giugiaro designed watch.
Yeah.
I apologize to the Italian people for my pronunciation of his name, but
close enough.
Yeah.
So that to me is a fun watch. It's a quartz as well, so it's more of an aesthetic watch than it is sort of about its capability. But that watch has gotten the most comments from people who are not watch people.
Yeah.
Because its design is kind of very retro futuristic out there.
Yeah. It's such a cool watch. Love that.
It's a great watch.
Yeah.
And it's actually a lot more durable than it looks too. That's a pretty hardy watch.
Yeah.
And those are sort of the watches I would say mean the most to me on a personal, like emotional level. I really love the Bulova wind up collaboration from San Francisco this year in International Orange, and I've been wearing that a lot as well. And of course, I do have a moon swatch, like every zillennial out there. It's kind of the Grail zillennial watch, I think.
Yeah, that's funny.
Which one do you have?
For its affordability, I have the Saturn version.
Okay.
So it's
like
it's kind of a beige, exactly.
Yeah, that one's cool.
Part of the original run of moon swatches.
Yeah, exactly.
None of this like mission to Earth phase nonsense. Just a core.
Although I am a fan of Snoopy, I'd put Snoopy on everything if I could.
Yeah,
and I have scratched that poor moon swatch up pretty bad.
I bet.
Because it's so much fun to just throw on your wrist and just whack around.
Yeah.
So that's another of my fun watches. I don't have a huge collection. I aspire to a huge collection.
I mean, you have a great collection, honestly. Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, it's hard for me to pick a watch that I aspire to because every day I find a new watch that I really want.
Yeah.
Same.
I think I'd really be hard pressed to. I really like a lot of Zodiac watches. I think have really nice designs.
Yeah.
Obviously, an Omega Speedmaster is kind of the basic answer, but I would really, really love to own one someday. Not sure which one, which color combo, etc. But kind of working my way up to those sort of bigger name luxury watch brands.
Yeah, absolutely.
Cool. So Elodie, the other thing I kind of wanted to touch on with you, as we alluded to in the opening, is you're interested in cars. I think that I don't know if you would say. I'll just ask. Like, do you feel like your interest in cars is sort of like a first love, and watches sort of like came after? I'm just curious, like how you see the connection between cars and watches, and like the cultures in these two enthusiast communities.
Yeah, I would definitely say cars were my first love, if only because cars have this cool factor to me that as a kid I was really enamored with. I collected Hot Wheels. I did all the things you do as a kid. I'd set up little traffic patterns with my Hot Wheels. But I think they very much go hand in hand, and I got into both seriously at about the same time. So when I was in college, watches they're not easier to collect in terms of cost, but they're definitely easier to collect in terms of space.
Yes.
So it's really interesting. I think car people and watch people have a lot in common. And the Venn diagram is very populated, I would say. One of my favorite things to do at car shows is watch spot as well.
Yeah.
And I find that a lot of people with cars like to pair their watches with the car they're driving that day, or they'll pick a watch based on how well it'll go with their car, etc. So I think it's one of the more potent hobbyist connections out there.
This episode is supported by Marlowe Watch Company, a UK-based brand known for making purpose-built mechanical watches with real-world inspiration. Their latest release, the Morar 310, is a modern dive watch designed with input from those who know what tough really means: search and rescue and lifeboat crews. With a 42mm marine-grade stainless steel case, 310 meters of water resistance, anti-magnetic shielding, and a helium escape valve, the Morar 310 is ready for extremes, but sized and styled for everyday wear. It's powered by the reliable Miyota 9039 automatic movement and comes in 4 distinct versions, each tied to a story. From the bright yellow Gold King to the deep green Santa, inspired by Scotland's rugged coastline. To learn more about the Morar 310, please visit marlowewatchcompany.com. That is MARLOE watchcompany.com. Now, back to the episode.
Kat, you kind of have like I don't know if you pair your watch with your car, but you have a similar kind of like enthusiasm for cars. Like,
this was also like encouraged by Elodie and Blaine. When I was looking for a vintage car, this is like a recent find for me. I've always been interested in old cars. My dad has a 55 Plymouth that I inherited when he passed away, and grew up going to car shows. So like that was just like very much the norm for me. And yeah, I've loved having another hobby to think about and replace the bubbles in my mind with. Now I stay up late looking at cars instead of watches. So just replaced one for the other. But no, it is a lot of fun. And like you mentioned, Elodie, it's like, well, I don't have any more garage space, so I'm literally stuck with this for now. But there is so much crossover. There's I'm interested to hear your take, Elodie, being so tied into what I feel is like a community on Cars and Bids, and you see so many comments like, what does the car enthusiast community look like versus the watch community? Because I'm like starting to dive into it. And I feel like, honestly, I feel like the watch community might be a little more positive, if I'm being honest. Then I feel like the car community is harsh. Like they're really harsh. Yeah.
I think,
I don't know. What's your take?
I would probably agree with you. I think the watch community has a little more leeway in terms of personal expression and taste.
Yeah.
I do think it depends on what car niche you're into.
Okay.
And I actually discovered this shift recently myself. I used to have a 1996 Geo Tracker, which I loved, but it was a money pit. And the community for that car is very, very limited. It wasn't on sale for very long, and it's a Suzuki car rebadged as a Geo, which is a dead company. And there are all these reasons why it was hard to find any community with that car specifically. And then I ended up selling the Tracker, and I bought a 1983 Volvo 240 DL for $1,500, which to me is the epitome of the everyman's classic car. Volvo sold 3 million of them. Yeah. Everyone you talk to either had one, rode in their friends, their mom had one, something like that. So the community
I'm
for
raising
that
my
car
hands here. We had our family had a Volvo 240.
Really?
And it's just such a great car. The fact that you could I don't know, you're just saying you found one for $1,500 makes me think that would be like just like I don't know if like a better way to spend the next $1,500 that I would have otherwise spent on a watch, but like it's like it opens it up as a possibility in my mind, which is like a dangerous thing. But yeah, I love those cars.
Would you ever get one, Kazan?
I mean, so I don't really have. It would be logistically difficult for me currently, just because of like living space. I don't know like where I would like put it necessarily, but yeah, because as you point out, cars don't fit in a watch box. So, but yeah, like I could see myself having like a fun car at some point in my life beyond just the like the daily driver. I have to say, like I come to the car thing a little bit differently. I think that like cars are like more of a nuisance than anything else. Like I kind of hate owning a car in a lot of ways.
That makes you halfway a car enthusiast already.
Tell me about that. Why is like, because that I think gets to like maybe that strain of negativity that like Kat's identified. Why does that make me half a car enthusiast already?
I think you get the most fun out of cars when you accept the fact that they're always going to be broken. And that you're never going to get the money back that you put into it. And that's where I think they differ from watches a little bit, where, you could have a watch for a year and maybe sell it again for the same amount that you bought it for. Especially with working in the car auction space, it's really difficult when you have to let people know that, hey, the moment you buy a car, it's not worth as much as you just bought it for. And I think once you come to terms with that, that's when it becomes fun, because you let go of the idea that it's an investment item, and you've embraced the idea that it's a hobby item, or just something that can bring you joy instead. So, I sold the tracker for less than I bought it for, and I spent a lot of money on it, but I loved every second that I owned it. It's like, it gives you a lot of pain, but it's worth it. And it teaches you things along the way. I learned how to drive stick on the tracker, for instance. And that opens up a whole new world of enthusiasm, a lot like owning your first mechanical watch does after only wearing quartz watches. And I think with a car like the Volvo, there's so many parts available. It's so cheap to own and maintain. The engine is so reliable. And it's a safe classic car. And a lot of classic cars aren't very safe. So
mine's not safe.
most classic cars are not as safe as a Volvo 240. So it definitely, I think, once it's a lot about coming to terms with that fact that it's not an investment so much as it's not a financial investment so much as it's a personal enjoyment investment.
Well, I think you do have to you have to love it, because if you don't, like, it does become like just a headache for you. And a lot of people just end up leaving the car in the garage and they never touch it again. And then, that's kind of sad. It's like putting a watch away and then just like never getting it fixed or never, I like the tinkering. Like, that's what I like to do. My car will always leak oil, always. Like, it's always going to have an oil leak. And I've accepted that fact.
If your car doesn't leak, then you're lying. That's always my.
Well, I'm sure a lot of people probably do fib when they're trying to sell their old car. But I've just accepted the fact, and I've got like a little pin underneath the car just to collect oil. But there's always going to be just like things that you can just like, I don't know. It's like doing something with your hands, I feel like. And I have a lot to do on my car, but I imagine even when those things are done, there's always going to be something I can like fiddle with the car on, and already like wanting another one already, which I don't need.
I think that's the danger of it, is the first time you own a quote project car that you love, and you realize how much fun it is to do research on the parts. The first time you install something correctly, the first time even if it's something like just doing the spark plugs or changing your oil, you feel so satisfied, and it becomes your car the moment you do something to it, even if it's just something as simple as changing an air filter. All of a sudden it's your car because you worked on it. And I think that's where a lot of the joy of car enthusiasm comes from. And that's where I think the positive side is when you interact with those types of car enthusiasts. I think the only negative, I've only seen very positive car scenes here in the Bay Area. And maybe that's because I'm oblivious, but maybe it's also because there's some really good scenes here. But I think the negative scenes come more from ownership as a status symbol rather than as a expression of joy. And I think that can kind of be seen in the watch world too, to a lesser extent. But for the most part, I think watch enthusiasts maybe understand that a bit more than car enthusiasts, that it's about the joy of ownership and the joy that the watch gives you. That's kind of a lesson I wish some car enthusiasts would take to heart as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think enthusiasts definitely get that, like, the, watches are not, like meant to be flexed or as, used as status symbols. But I think that maybe it's kind of like the opposite in the car community. Like the general public kind of sees luxury watches as like a pure flex item. And it's not until you like get into the community that you realize there are all these other kind of like reasons we love these things beyond just, seeing them as a status symbol. Like that's the least important, part of a watch to a watch enthusiast. But, whereas a car is it's purely utilitarian to most people, and people understand that, I think, kind of like intrinsically. I want to like hear more about your work on the Volvo. So I remember when you told me you bought the car and needed some work. Have you like been able to like what have you done to it so far? Are you driving it on a regular basis?
Yeah, actually, and I've been driving it a lot. It has 312,000 miles on it, which for a Volvo red block engine, it's a B23F Volvo engine. If you know your Volvos, that's like a holy grail sort of era of Volvo engine. So for that engine, that's not that many miles. But it's an old car that, fortunately, it's been a California Bay Area car its whole life, so it has no rust. But the previous owners, they took care of it only as much as they had to. So oil changes and everything they kept up on, but everything else needed work. So a lot of the rubber parts are crumbling. 80s plastic wasn't great.
Man.
Volvo used biodegradable wiring for a few years, which is now seems ridiculous, but at the time was,
groundbreaking.
They were very, exactly. They were very focused on environmental concerns at the time. So a lot of the work that I've done has been with my friend who knows about Volvos. And we've done the PCV flame trap, which is like a tiny, tiny piece that prevents oil from spraying everywhere. We've done a full tune-up, so spark plugs, wires, distributor cap, and rotor. And we replaced the rear shocks. So it was bouncing like a boat before, and now it drives pretty good. We still have a lot to do. So the front struts, that requires a lot more work because you need a spring compressor. So figuring out the logistics of everything is kind of the move here. But it runs great. And it's in shockingly good cosmetic shape for its age. And I've actually taken it to several car shows already, including Radwood, NorCal down in San Jose, and it made that drive without a hiccup. So
that's awesome.
It's been a lot of fun learning about a new car. Especially, it's been a lot of fun learning about a car that's so well documented because all my previous work on the tracker, that's such a rare engine. It's a lot easier to do research on a car like the Volvo 240, which everyone in the world has had some experience with.
Sure.
I feel like the same with the Beetles. Like everyone has a story about a Beetle, and there's just so much information. And it's like my first like vintage car. It's been really nice to like pretty much YouTube anything and everything I could possibly want to do. Like someone's done it already. There's just like so many of them out there. I think like, and there's also collectors that just like have a bunch of different ones. Maybe I'll have another one day. But
what's the right number of Beetles to own, do you think? How many? I think
like 2 for sure. At minimum 2.
I'm going to argue 3. I'm gonna say you need your street bill. Then you need your Baja Bug. And then you need your convertible. That's my
that's my next one is like I've got the convertible. That's like the nice like weekend driver. The next one I want to like Baja, like a regular hardtop one, like make it my own version of a Baja, like big off-road tires, put a rooftop rack. I want to go camping in it. Like I want to just make it like rough and tumble. I don't even care if there's like rust on it. That's fine. We're just really kind of mean, but I don't have garage space right now, so one day.
Don't let something like that stop you, though.
Don't let garage space stop you.
It's a small obstacle, relatively.
Park in the yard.
I'm fortunate that my parents let me park my Volvo at their house, because being in San Francisco, garage space is
limited.
Very limited. And I think one of the coolest things about being able to street park a classic car is that you get so many people who walk past and are so excited to see it.
Yeah.
And it was the same when I had the Tracker too, just the amount of people who stop and want to talk to you about your car. And I think sometimes hiding a car in a garage,
it's so sad, right?
It's a little sad. Keep the car in nicer shape. And obviously I'm spoiled California. You can street park a car here.
Yeah.
But a lot of the joy of cars, I think, comes from the connections you make with people over the cars. And to me, you make those connections by going to car shows, by talking to people and going to these events. And I've met a lot of really, really cool people at car shows.
Yeah. And I'd say the same with like the watch community too. I feel like that's the best enjoyment I've had through watches, is like meeting people, people like your dad over the years. And like, he was like one of my first, OG Instagram friends that I made back in the day.
He still has more followers than me on Instagram.
So, but yeah, I think just like going to events and meeting people, and it can feel intimidating. I do feel like maybe the car world is a little bit more accepting. It's easier to go to like a car show, I feel like, than a watch meetup. That feels very, I don't know, maybe on just a different level. I don't know why, but maybe it's just like a little bit more accepted. A lot of people see them. They're taking over parking lots, and you drive by them all the time. It's easier to just kind of stop and look around, versus watches feel like, I don't know, it feels more private in a way.
It's almost
weird.
like car shows are very much in the cultural zeitgeist.
Yeah.
People know what a car show is and what happens at one.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas, the few times I've told someone, oh, hey, I'm going to this watch event, I've had people say, what the heck is a watch event?
Yeah.
Right.
It's like, well, it's pretty much the same thing. And I think, and a lot of people I've talked to who are my age or younger, I think are scared to enter the watch world because they see it as a affluent thing to do. And they're a little scared that they don't have the money to look cool in that space. Which is always when I say, hey, there's some really cool micro brands. There's some really cool budget watches. I love telling people about Seiko, because Seiko makes 1 billion watches. I love telling people about Brew and other micro brands. I'm like, hey, you can actually be a watch enthusiast for so much less than you think. Mm-hmm. And I think that's what really opens people up to the idea of the watch world.
Totally.
What's the equivalent in the car world? Is there like,
what's the Brew of the car world?
Like, what's the, in your opinion, and like, we should say, we've alluded to it, but like your opinion is you have you work professionally in the car industry. You work for I don't know if we can name the website, but you work for a popular car auction, website. So you're like really kind of in this community. What's the the entry point for someone who like, is like wants to kind of like put one foot into the like kind of vintage or enthusiast car world? Is there like, is there even like a recommendation you can make, or is it just about sort of like, diving in and experiencing it?
Yeah, I think my recommendation is actually similar to what people in like the photography world will tell you, is that, the car you have is the best car for you right now. Mm-hmm. So I think learning to love the car you have, even if the car you have is a quote unquote non-enthusiast car. My first car was a 1994 Camry wagon. Not an enthusiast car by any means, although they're rare now. So now they get some money, but learning the car you have, and doing some research on that car is a great start. I don't think you need an enthusiast car to be a car enthusiast. Especially because car ownership is really expensive.
Yeah.
And it keeps getting more expensive. So, I mean, I didn't own a project car until many, many years into my car enthusiasm. I don't think owning an enthusiast car should be the starting point for car enthusiasm. Mm-hmm. I think just going out there, going to car shows, looking at other people's cars, and reading articles, watching videos, doing all this fun stuff is more of a gateway than telling yourself you need to buy a project car or a classic car to be in that world. And I think welcoming people who aren't at that point is a really important factor too.
Yeah, that sounds like good advice to me. And that's very similar to what I talk to people about, when it comes to like getting into watches and enjoying watches. Like you don't have to own an MB&F to love MB&F. Like you can admire these things from afar and appreciate them and still like get something out of the hobby. That's why you put a Ferrari poster on your wall, when you're a kid. Like you don't, it's just like it's an aesthetic object to look at, and with watches, obviously, like, there's a lot of joy that comes from ownership, but that's not all the joy. Like there's there's plenty of joy to be found just in like admiring something from afar. And I think that's sort of like, to me at least personally, was like sort of like a key to like getting more out of this hobby, is understanding like I don't have to own everything. Like I can just like appreciate it without ownership.
Yeah, it took a while for me to get there.
Have you gotten there? You think? Is it?
I don't think so. Yeah. I don't think so.
I always say, I love an E46 BMW, but I would never own one.
Yeah.
But every time I see one, I get really, really excited about it. And I think it's fun to open yourself up to the idea that ownership does not equal enthusiasm.
Right.
And if you're really set on owning a classic, I think Kat and I both have great classic cars that are a lot cheaper to own and maintain than others.
Cheaper than some watches, for sure.
Absolutely. So I think if you're really set on owning a classic car, Volvo and Volkswagen are great places to start. Toyota is also a great place to start. Although they come with the Toyota tax, they say, in terms of reliability. And all of it depends on what you want out of it. And I think doing all of your research beforehand is always best.
Yeah.
Really delve into those forums and not even just Reddit, like the enthusiast forums that are dedicated to that topic. Because you learn a lot from the people who have explored the world. And I think it's just as much fun to do all your reading as it is to actually own the thing that you're researching.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, for sure. I mean, I love like scrolling sites like, kind of where you work and other sites that are similar, and just like, I have no interest in buying something, but it's just cool to see what's out there, and you discover things you've never seen before, and you're like, oh, that's really cool, and inspires you. It's inspired me, like seeing what other people have done to their Beetles, like inspired me to think of ideas of things I want to do to mine. And you don't really get that with watches. They're like just the thing they are, besides like change a strap. Like that's all you can really do to them. With a car, you can do a lot of different things, and it makes it really fun and enjoyable. But I think too, just like just going back to the community, what's cool about both of these genres is like meeting people that have stories like that really means a lot to me. When I go to a wind up and someone comes and talks to me about like a watch that was handed down to them, or maybe they found through a different avenue, or they found through us, like I just think that's so cool. And I think the same in the car world of someone pulls up beside me as I'm filling up for gas and is like, oh, my mom used to own a Beetle, and it's like I love hearing those stories. And I mean that really does sort of help make the hobby. And you don't have to even own the thing to have those conversations and still really enjoy a huge aspect of each of these hobbies.
Yeah, I think talking about watches as heirlooms is maybe a good segue into talking about the article that you wrote, Elodie, which is about your friend Ansel, who inherited an Omega Seamaster from, was it his grandfather that he inherited?
Yeah, correct.
That watch from. Just tell us, like, we'll leave a link to your piece in the show notes, but just like at a high level, kind of like tell us a little bit about Ansel and how how you know him, and a little bit about his story.
Yeah, so and actually Ansel, as a spoiler, is also the friend who knows about Volvos. So he's the one who's been helping me with my Volvo as well. But we've been friends since we were in 8th grade. On and off through high school, college, friend groups change and everything, but we've always stayed in touch. And he was sort of one of the first friends I had as an adult who was into watches as much as I was. And he's worked in the watch world, doing some design work for various micro brands. So he's an industrial designer. So to me, talking to somebody else my age who was very into watches was a pretty eye-opening experience, because we've known each other for so long, but I never knew he was into watches until a year ago. Because it's kind of one of those hobbies that I feel people aren't wearing on their sleeves, so to speak, as much as I wish they would. I would love to talk to more people about watches, but you kind of have to dig a little bit to get them to reveal it to you.
Yeah.
So learning that he was not only into watches, but worked on designing some watches was a really, really fun revelation. And it's helped us reconnect a lot as friends too.
That's awesome.
Yeah. And his love of, I always knew he loved vintage cars. He drove a Volvo Amazon in high school that he still owns. So that was sort of the happy second part that we got to go along with it. And he was a big part of the reason why I chose to look for a Volvo as well, because knowing that I had him as a resource too was a big help in saying, okay, well, I'm not alone in figuring out how to do these things.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. It's a really cool piece. Your photos look great too. Like you really do a nice job of capturing his vintage Mercedes and the Seamaster like together. It's a really, really cool, piece of work. And I imagine that there are like lots of stories like that to tell in the car community, because as you point out, and I think as we all kind of like understand, like there's just a lot of overlap, in these hobbies.
Absolutely. And actually, I'll give a shout out to two of my coworkers, Terry and Michael. We've started our little watch discussion group in our Slack, and we have Google Meets and stuff. And it's just another really fun thing to connect with people over.
Yeah.
And to me, I think watches are extra fun because they're so personal. Your choice of watch says a lot about you, whether you want it to or not. To me, a choice of watch is a really big part of your personality and your style. So it's a really unique and fun way to connect with people, because watches can be so personal and have so much personal meaning as well.
Yeah, ultimately, like that's sort of like my favorite thing about the hobby is like the way that you can use a watch to sort of like be like an expression of your taste and your point of view on things. And like watches are so many things, right? Like they're like, there's history in watches, there's art in watches, there's, obviously like functionality in watches, but like ultimately, you don't really need them today. So like the really cool thing about them is like it tells a story about you and your, why you chose a particular watch. And that's what makes them special. I think that's another parallel, I think, with at least with the enthusiast car world, like you chose that Volvo, because it's a reflection of you in some way. And, Ansel chose that Mercedes because it's a reflection of him in some way.
Yeah. The idea of a narrative object that points to stories and traits and facets of your life is really intriguing to me, I think.
Yeah. The last thing I wanted to ask you, Elodie, is just, because of the like the environment in which you work, which is a car enthusiast community. I'm wondering like how being involved in the car community at a professional level has informed your own enthusiasm for cars, and if it's spilled over into watches, and if there's any sort of like additional insight like into either hobby that you've gained from being involved in professionally. And of course, you're involved in watches professionally now too, as a writer for Worn & Wound. So I'm just curious to hear your perspective on that.
I think a lot of what I've learned from working in the car auction space is about valuation, and coming to terms with what a car is worth. And like I was speaking about prior, sort of freeing yourself from the idea of keeping something this way because it needs to be worth something. And it's taught me a lot about emotional connections to things. A lot of people have a hard time selling a car because they have such an emotional connection to it, which I understand a lot. And I think finding the good balance between understanding that an object has value and that value is going to diminish over time, but also maintaining your personal connection to something, because that's how you find joy in things, is having your personal connection to it. So I think it's taught me a lot about that balance between value and joy, and, having your hobbies without them taking over your life and if something's making you tear your hair out, it's probably not worth, pursuing as a hobby. So really finding that balance, I think, is what working in the car auction space specifically has helped me find.
Yeah. No, I think, balance is important in everything. And I think that's it's a very good point that no hobby should cause undue stress. There have certainly been times where I think all of us have probably been guilty of, taking these things a little bit too seriously. And it's good to remember that it's supposed to be fun, regardless of whether it's cars or watches or stamp collecting or whatever.
Yeah, I feel like it gets lost. And I think a lot of people in the watch space, maybe, especially when they're first starting out, kind of are like, oh, I have to hit like the Speedmaster and I have to hit like the Field Watch and I have to get the diver, and like they can't enjoy the hobby until they get all of those things. And I think like you don't have to go about it that way. And just like with the car, I am guilty of this too. When I got my Beetle, I wanted everything done right away and in order to enjoy it. And like I was like, oh, I gotta replace the 4 pans, and besides, like, I got it tuned up, and then it was like, okay, it's running. I can enjoy it. It's fine. Like, okay, the seatbelts are janky, but whatever,
Yeah, just don't crash it.
It's a death trap anyway, no matter what. So, like, no, but I mean, my radio doesn't work and all these things, but like, I don't need them to enjoy driving it. And I kind of had to like get over that of like, I don't need to make it perfect first to just drive it and enjoy it every day. And now I'm like, I have just kind of put some of those things on the back burner. I'm like, when I get around to it, I'll do it, but I'm not like rushed to do it, and I can still have fun with it. And I think like you just have to like put some of those things aside and not get too serious about it and just enjoy the things you have.
Yeah. Sure. I think a lot of times I hear from aspiring car enthusiasts, oh, I can't be a car enthusiast. I don't own a manual transmission car, or I don't own a car with a turbocharger. So, and to me, those sort of gatekeeping expectations frustrate me so much, because I'm guilty of thinking manuals are more fun too, but there's a lot of great automatic cars. So I think when you relieve yourself of those gatekeeping, I have to do this, it has to be this way, measures, you just get so much more fun out of it.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. There's a lot of that in the watch community too. Like, I think we can all identify, aspects of the, watch culture that are, similar. Like, there's like the snobbery around quartz watches, for example. That's, listen, just something we all have to kind of like fight through and fight against. And, just do the things that sort of like make you happy in the hobby ultimately. Well, Elodie, Kat, this has been a really fun conversation. I really enjoyed, chatting with you about the connections between watches and cars. We're going to move it into our cultural recommendations segment of the podcast after taking a few weeks off from this segment. There's a lot of culture to recommend, and we like to, kind of like mix things up and recommend something that's maybe not, super watch related. Elodie, what have you got for us? What's your cultural rec this week?
Well, I'm gonna, since I was the enabler for Kat for the car enthusiasm, I'm gonna flip that around. Recently, I discovered that I need a new camera, a new digital camera. I've mostly shot film my whole life, but I have an older Canon DSLR that is now to the point where it's a little too old. So I asked Kat for camera recommendations, and it sent me down this awesome rabbit hole of camera stuff.
Yeah.
So I found a YouTube channel that I think is so fantastic. It's called Micro Four Nerds, which is a play on name. Micro Four Thirds camera. And the woman who does it is so spectacular, and she does not have nearly as many subscribers as I think she deserves.
Yeah.
And her videos are so personable. She's affable, but she's also so knowledgeable. And she comes at it with the cameras you can afford, cameras that are worth the extra money, cameras that, she kind of has all the different angles, and she's just so clearly knowledgeable and really fun to watch. So Micro Four Nerds is the channel name. And
that's great. I'll check it out.
She shares a lot of Kat's opinions on cameras that were shared with me. So she's been the fun channel I've been diving into.
I already like her then.
Awesome. Good rec. I'm not familiar with that channel, but I'll definitely check it out. And we'll leave a link for it in the show notes, of course. Kat, what have you got?
I just had to look it up because I couldn't remember his name, but it's Nick Perry on Instagram. His Instagram handle is Books Are Sick. So this year I set a goal to like just read more. It specifically like fiction because I read a lot of nonfiction stuff. And he's just got a great Instagram account, and he talks about he's like an avid reader, like reading many, many books a week. And he does these reviews. He's just like got a great personality. And he's a huge Stephen King fan, which I know your brother Elodie is a huge Stephen King fan as well. And that's kind of like, if someone's like a huge Stephen King fan and they're recommending another book by another author that they think you will like, I just gravitate towards it. So he's already recommended a bunch of books I've read and love, and like I just adore his channel. I think again he doesn't have enough followers either, but yeah, I guess he's like a book influencer. That's what he is. He's a book influencer, and it's working. And he's got a really cool channel, and I love his reviews. And it's got me reading again, which is what I needed to do, and another thing to get my mind off of watches. So
there you go.
It's a good thing. Yeah.
My New Year's resolution every year is to read less and watch more TV, which translates very, very well into my own recommendation, which is a television series that I recently binge watched over the course of a couple of nights on Netflix. It's a Danish television series called Families Like Ours. And I've been recommending this to everyone that I speak with over the last few weeks because I really like it. This actually came out in 2024 on Danish television, and then Netflix picked it up and started it was added it to their library earlier this summer. It's by Thomas Vinterberg, who directed a really great movie called Another Round a few years ago, which I also recommend. But the concept of this show is that the country of Denmark has to essentially dissolve itself because of a coming climate disaster, and it sort of like deals with the ramifications of that, and like thinks through sort of like every step, like how that would transpire, and it sort of focuses on one family and how they navigate that sort of like hypothetical problem. It feels like very realistic to me in sort of like an uncomfortable way because of the subject matter, the worsening problem of climate change, but it's also just like incredibly well acted by these Danish actors who I was not familiar with, but are all apparently like quite well known in Denmark, and it's just a really compelling show. So it's on Netflix. Families Like Ours. Highly recommend it. Very, very good TV
cool.
show.
Check it out.
Yeah. Well, Elodie, Kat, thank you again for coming on the podcast. This has been a lot of fun, and thank you as well to everyone for listening in again to another new episode of the Warner One podcast. We will, as always, be back next week. I'm in Switzerland next week, so I think maybe next week we'll be doing the Geneva Watch Days recap, if I'm not mistaken, will be the next episode. So stay tuned for that.
Excited.
Yeah, me too. I haven't left for Switzerland yet, but the next podcast I will be back from Switzerland.
Yeah.
It's just that condensing of time. It's tripping me out a little bit. Got a lot to do. Thanks again, guys. And we'll see you all again next time on the podcast. Until then, take care.